First Contact and Invasion. Fleet Commander Zarak stood on the bridge of the Worldbreaker, his 6 emerald eyes fixed on the blue-green planet displayed on the main view screen. Earth looked insignificant from this distance, just another resource-rich world ripe for harvesting. The Krax Dominion had conquered 17 worlds in the last cycle alone. This backwater planet would be 18. Report, Zarak ordered, his mandibles clicking impatiently. Science Officer Vex glanced up from her console. Primitive civilization, Commander. They've achieved basic spaceflight, but haven't expanded beyond their own moon. Nuclear capabilities present, but limited. Planetary defense systems are rudimentary at best. Military assessment, Zarak asked, turning to his tactical officer. Their weapons are chemical and nuclear-based. No particle beams, no gravity weapons, no quantum disruptors, Tactical Officer Mira replied. Our shields can withstand their most powerful weapons without significant strain. They have no unified planetary defense force. The planet is divided into approximately 200 territorial regions they call nations. Zarak's mouthparts formed what passed for a smile among his species, divided and weak. The easiest type of conquest. The Krax scout ship had been observing Earth for 60 rotations now, hiding behind the planet's natural satellite, gathering intelligence and analyzing weaknesses. The humans had never detected their presence. There is one peculiarity, Commander, Vex added, her tone hesitant. I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from various locations across the planet. They don't match any known technology or natural phenomena. Zarak waved a dismissive claw. Noted in the report, but I'm not concerned. A species that still burns fossil fuels is hardly a threat to the Dominion. He settled into his command chair, mandibles clicking in anticipation. Prepare the invasion report for High Command. Tell them Earth is an ideal target. Minimal defenses, divided population, abundant resources. Recommend immediate full-scale invasion. 3 solar cycles later, the skies above Earth filled with the massive warships of the Krax Dominion. 5,000 vessels of varying sizes took up strategic positions around the planet, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight as they prepared for the initial assault. Zarak stood on the command deck of the flagship, watching with satisfaction as his fleet darkened the skies over Earth's major population centers. Begin standard invasion protocol, he ordered. Broadcast the surrender demands. Communications Officer Tarn nodded and initiated the sequence. Across Earth, every electronic device, televisions, radios, phones, computers, suddenly displayed the same message, translated into all human languages. People of Earth, we are the Krax Dominion. Your planet is now under our control. Surrender your resources and accept our rule, or face extinction. You have 6 hours to comply. Zarak observed the planet's reaction through their monitoring systems. Predictably, chaos erupted in the streets of every major city. Emergency vehicles activated, military forces mobilized, civilians fled or sought shelter. Just as expected, Zarak said to his second-in-command. They panic, their leaders argue among themselves, and then they surrender. It's always the same with primitive species. 6 hours passed with no official response from Earth. Their time is up, Zarak announced. Deploy the first wave of ground forces. Target their capitals and major military installations. Thousands of transport ships descended from the fleet. Krax warriors, each standing nearly 3 meters tall with armored exoskeletons and advanced plasma weapons, landed in Washington, Moscow, Beijing, London, and dozens of other strategic locations. But the human resistance was immediate and unexpectedly effective. In Washington, D.C., Squad Leader Krax led his unit toward the human leadership building they called the White House. Human military forces met them with heavy fire, and to Krax's shock, their primitive projectile weapons occasionally penetrated Krax armor. This is impossible, he shouted into his communicator as he took cover behind a destroyed vehicle. Their weapons are basic metal projectiles. They shouldn't harm our battle armor. Similar reports flooded in from around the globe. Human weapons were proving more effective than Crack's intelligence had predicted. On the Worldbreaker, Zarak received the troubling updates with growing irritation. "Send in the second wave," he ordered. "Deploy the Annihilator Walkers." Giant three-legged war machines dropped from the sky, each standing 60 meters tall. They fired devastating energy beams that cut through buildings like paper. This would surely break the humans' will to fight. But something strange was happening on the ground. In London, Crack soldiers reported humans lifting collapsed structures to rescue others trapped beneath, structures that should have been too heavy for their muscle capacity. In Tokyo, civilians somehow dodged energy blasts that should have been too fast for human reflexes. In Rio de Janeiro, a human child walked through fire unharmed to reach her mother. "Commander," Science Officer Vex interrupted urgently, showing Zarak a data tablet. "Those unusual energy readings we detected earlier, they're coming from the humans themselves. And they're increasing exponentially." Zarak stared at the readings, his mandibles twitching in disbelief. "Impossible. Run a full biological scan of the humans we've captured." In Sydney, Australia, Sergeant Maya Chen of the Australian Defence Force watched as the alien walker approached the harbour. Her unit had already lost half its strength trying to stop the three-legged monstrosity. Conventional weapons barely scratched its metallic hide. As the walker prepared to fire again, Chen felt a strange sensation coursing through her body. A tingling warmth spread from her core to her limbs, and for a moment, her skin seemed to glow with a faint blue light. The walker fired directly at her position. Without thinking, Chen raised her hands, and the energy beam stopped midair, hovering like a suspended lightning bolt. With a push of her hands, the energy reversed direction and struck the walker's leg joint. The massive machine staggered, its balance compromised. Chen stared at her hands in shock. What the hell just happened? Around her, other soldiers were experiencing similar phenomena. Private Jenkins suddenly moved with impossible speed, evacuating civilians from a collapsing building. Corporal Rodriguez's wounds healed before their eyes. Lieutenant Kim somehow lifted a 5-ton chunk of concrete to free trapped civilians. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in the United States, in a facility unknown to the public, General Eleanor Ward watched the battle updates with grim satisfaction. Around her, scientists monitored hundreds of screens showing data from around the world. "Protocol Prometheus activation is at 15% and rising," reported Dr. Sato. "The more aggressive the alien attack, the faster the response triggers." Ward nodded. "And they have no idea what they've awakened." On a screen above her, a satellite image showed a Crack's walker attacking a neighborhood in Chicago. As the machine prepared to fire, a civilian man stepped into the street. The walker's beam hit him directly, but instead of disintegrating, the man absorbed the energy, his skin glowing bright blue. Then he raised his hands and released the energy back at the walker, shattering its legs. "They came to the wrong planet," Ward whispered. 7 decades before the Crack's invasion, in a classified laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Rebecca Morgan held up a vial of luminescent blue liquid. "We've confirmed it," she told the small group of scientists and military officials gathered around her. "Human DNA contains a dormant sequence unlike anything we've ever seen before." General Williams, representing the United States, leaned forward. "And you're certain this is in all humans, not just a few?" "Every human on Earth carries it," Dr. Morgan replied. "We've tested thousands of samples from every continent, every ethnic group. It's universal." "But what does it do?" asked Dr. Zhao, the Chinese representative. Dr. Morgan placed the vial in a specialized containment unit. "We believe it's an evolutionary failsafe, a genetic ability that activates only when our species faces extinction." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "Project Prometheus will study this ability," Dr. Morgan continued, "and prepare humanity for the day we might need it." Back in the present, 3 days into the Crack's invasion, David Collins woke up in his apartment in Chicago, his head pounding. Outside, explosions shook the building. The aliens had arrived yesterday, their ships hovering over the city like malevolent clouds. He grabbed his phone to check the news, but it only showed the alien message repeating endlessly, "Surrender or face extinction." Suddenly, pain shot through his body. David fell to his knees, gasping. His skin felt like it was on fire. When he looked at his hands, blue lines appeared beneath his skin, tracing his veins. Across the street, a cracked transport ship landed. 6 alien soldiers emerged, their weapons ready. Without thinking, David ran to his window and jumped from the 6th floor. Instead of falling to his death, he landed perfectly on his feet. The impact should have shattered his legs, but he felt nothing except power surging through his body. The alien soldiers spotted him and fired. David raised his hands instinctively, and a blue energy shield formed in front of him, blocking the plasma blasts. "What's happening to me?" he whispered. In the Rocky Mountain facility, Dr. Sato watched hundreds of similar events unfolding on screens around the world. "Protocol Prometheus is now at 30% activation," he announced. "The dormant gene is expressing in civilians with increasing frequency." General Ward nodded. "And our military personnel? The treatments we administered are accelerating the process. They're showing abilities at twice the rate of civilians." Ward studied a map showing blue dots spreading across the globe, each representing a human with awakening abilities. "Send the message to all world governments," she ordered. "It's time to execute Phase 2. On the Crack's command ship, Zarak watched in disbelief as his soldiers retreated from yet another human city. "Our weapons grow less effective by the hour," his second-in-command reported. "And now we're seeing humans with impossible abilities. Enhanced strength, speed, and some kind of energy manipulation. They're just humans." Zarak slammed his claw on the console. "Primitive mammals." "Commander," Science Officer Vex interrupted, showing him a data tablet. "We've analyzed the prisoners. Their DNA is changing. Segments that appeared dormant are now expressing, and it's spreading like a wave across their population." Zarek's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "The energy readings we detected, we weren't detecting technology. We were detecting this genetic activation." He stared at the blue planet below, what had seemed like an easy conquest now becoming a nightmare. "What are we facing?" he whispered. "Earth's awakening and counterattack." In a hastily established training facility, formerly a high school gymnasium, in Toronto, Canada, Major Sarah Lawson addressed a group of newly empowered civilians. Each person showed the telltale blue glow beneath their skin, marking them as awakened. "You're not alone," she assured them. "What's happening to you is happening across the globe. It's part of us. Has always been part of us, just dormant until now." A young woman raised her hand, blue energy crackling between her fingers. "But what is it? What are we becoming?" Major Lawson's own skin glowed with the same ethereal blue light. "We're becoming what we were always meant to be in times of crisis. Earth's defenders." For 50 years, select military personnel worldwide had been prepared for this possibility. They had received specialized treatments to help their dormant genes activate faster when needed. Now they served as trainers and leaders for the awakening civilian population. "Don't fight the energy," Lawson demonstrated, allowing blue power to flow along her arms. "It's part of you now. Direct it, don't force it." On the cracked science vessel Dissector, Chief Scientist Sen examined a captured human. The human female was secured to an examination table, blue energy visibly flowing beneath her skin. "Fascinating," Sen muttered. "Their DNA contains adaptive sequences I've never encountered before." Commander Zarak entered the laboratory, his posture tense. "Tell me what we're facing, scientist." Sen displayed a holographic image of human DNA. Their genetic code contains dormant sections that activate under extreme stress. It appears to be an evolutionary defense mechanism. "Against what?" Zarak demanded. "Extinction events," Sen explained. "These humans evolved on a planet with frequent natural disasters, predators, and their own violent behavior. Their DNA developed a final defense, the ability to rapidly adapt when their species faces extinction. So our invasion triggered the response, Zarek realized. And it's spreading. Sen continued. The activated humans emit an energy signature that accelerates activation in others, like a biological alarm system. Zarek's mandibles clicked nervously. Can we stop it? I'm developing a gene-targeted weapon, Sen replied. But I need more test subjects. In the Rocky Mountain facility, Dr. Sato presented his findings to General Ward and world leaders on video screens. Humans evolved as apex predators, he explained, but unlike other predator species, we faced constant threats: ice ages, volcanic eruptions, meteor impacts. Our DNA developed this fail-safe ability. Why didn't we know about this before? Asked the British Prime Minister. We did, Ward replied. Myths of superhumans, gods, heroes with amazing powers. They were real individuals whose abilities activated during localized threats, but never on this scale. The abilities manifest differently based on each person's genetic makeup, Dr. Sato continued. Some develop physical enhancements, strength, speed, durability. Others manifest energy manipulation, regeneration, or heightened senses. And the aliens? Asked the Chinese president. General Ward smiled grimly. They're learning that humans aren't the easy prey they thought we were. In Chicago, David Collins led a strike team of newly awakened civilians against a Cracks outpost. After a week of training, he had considerable control over his abilities, energy absorption and redirection. Alongside him, a former nurse named Elena could generate healing fields. A construction worker named Michael had developed incredible strength. A college student named Aisha could manipulate kinetic energy, allowing her to move objects with her mind. Remember your training, David told them as they approached the alien compound. Work together, cover each other's weaknesses. The Cracks spotted them and opened fire. Elena raised a protective field around the group, while Aisha redirected the energy blasts back at the aliens. David absorbed the remaining fire and channeled it into a concentrated blast that breached the compound's outer wall. Inside, they found humans in containment cells, being studied by crack scientists. Get them out, David ordered as Michael tore the cell doors from their hinges. While freeing the prisoners, David discovered something alarming: schematics for a massive orbital weapon on a Cracks display terminal. They're building something big, he reported over their communication system. Some kind of DNA disruptor in orbit. On the Cracks command ship, Zarek personally supervised the deployment of the new weapon. Target the largest human population centers, he ordered. Once their abilities are neutralized, we can resume normal conquest procedures. The massive cannon extended from the underside of the command ship, glowing with green energy as it powered up. Fire, Zarek commanded. Green energy shot toward Earth, spreading like a wave over North America. Zarek watched with satisfaction, expecting to see the human energy signatures disappear from their monitors. Instead, something unexpected happened. The blue energy patterns from the humans intensified, growing brighter and spreading faster. What's happening? Zarek demanded. Scientist Sen stared at his readings in disbelief. The weapon, it's not suppressing their abilities. It's accelerating them. On Earth, humans who hadn't yet developed abilities suddenly found themselves awakening. The green energy from the alien weapon had the opposite effect of what was intended. In Chicago, David looked up at the sky as green energy washed over the city. Instead of harming him, he felt stronger than ever, his entire body now glowing bright blue. They made a mistake, he said. A really big mistake. Across the globe, millions of humans simultaneously awakened, their dormant abilities triggered by the alien weapon. What had been a growing resistance became a full-scale counteroffensive. In London, awakened humans took down a Cracks walker by working together, combining their abilities. In Beijing, a group of civilians with newly manifested flight abilities attacked Cracks ships from above. In Rio de Janeiro, A teenager who could control plant life caused vegetation to grow at impossible speeds, entangling alien troops. On the Crack's command ship, Zarek faced a mutiny as his officers openly questioned his leadership. "Our forces are being decimated," his second-in-command argued. "These humans are unlike any species we've encountered." "They were primitive just days ago," Zarek insisted. "And now they're not," came the reply. "We must report the truth to High Command and recommend immediate withdrawal." A warning alarm blared through the ship. "Multiple human aircraft approaching orbit," announced a tactical officer. "They're not like any human craft we've seen before." On the main view screen, sleek black ships appeared, rising from Earth's atmosphere. Their design was clearly human, but far more advanced than anything the Cracks had observed during their reconnaissance. "Where did those come from?" Zarek demanded. In an underground hangar beneath the Nevada desert, General Ward walked among dozens of advanced spacecraft preparing for launch. "For 50 years, Earth governments have been secretly preparing," she explained. "The newly assembled pilots, all awakened humans with enhanced capabilities. We reverse-engineered technology from previous extraterrestrial encounters. We developed weapons specifically designed to counter alien invasions. We trained elite forces in case this day ever came." The pilots, their bodies glowing with blue energy, climbed into the experimental craft. "Today, we take the fight to them," Ward said. "Today, we show them why Earth was the wrong planet to invade." The human fleet engaged the Crack ships in Earth orbit. What should have been a one-sided battle quickly turned into a rout. The human pilots, with their enhanced reflexes and perception, outmaneuvered the alien vessels. Their weapons, combined with their awakened abilities, cut through Crack's defenses like they were paper. On the ground, the tide had completely turned. Awakened humans systematically dismantled alien ground forces. Working in coordinated teams, they combined their various abilities to devastating effect. David Collins led a strike force directly against the Crack's command center in Chicago. With his energy absorption at full capacity after the weapon backfire, he walked through alien fire unharmed, absorbing each blast and growing stronger. Inside the command center, he confronted the Crack's commander. "You should have studied us better," David said as blue energy swirled around him. "Humans don't break under pressure. We evolve." In orbit, Zarek watched in horror as his fleet disintegrated around him. Half his ships were already destroyed or disabled. The rest were retreating in disarray. "Order a full withdrawal," he finally conceded. "Save what vessels we can." As the remaining Crack ships fled Earth's orbit, a transmission came through on all frequencies. The face of General Ward appeared on their screens. "This message is for the Crack's High Command," she stated. "Earth is off limits. We were content to remain isolated, to develop at our own pace. You forced us to evolve faster. Remember what happened here today, and spread the word to any other species with conquest in mind. Earth is protected." 3 months after the failed invasion, the last visible signs of the Crack's presence were being cleared from Earth's cities. The blue glow had faded from most humans as the immediate extinction threat passed, though many retained some enhanced abilities. In a secure conference room in Geneva, Switzerland, world leaders met to discuss humanity's new place in the galaxy. "The awakening has changed everything," the UN Secretary-General observed. "We're no longer alone, and we're no longer defenseless." David Collins, now serving as a civilian advisor to the newly formed Earth Defense Force, looked out the window at the night sky. The stars seemed different now, not distant points of light, but potential destinations. "They came to conquer us," he said, "but they ended up freeing us. Humanity was always meant for more than just surviving on this planet." General Ward nodded. "The Cracks discovered our secret. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to adapt, to overcome, to transform crisis into opportunity." "Do you think they'll come back?" someone asked. "I doubt it," Ward replied. "But if they do, or if others come looking for an easy conquest," she smiled as her eyes briefly flashed with blue energy. We'll be ready." Across the galaxy, the surviving Krax vessels limped home. Commander Zorak, demoted and disgraced, delivered his report to the High Command. "Earth is not what it appears," he concluded. "Its inhabitants harbor an evolutionary defense mechanism, unlike anything we've encountered. They don't just fight extinction. They transform in response to it. My recommendation is clear. Earth should be marked as prohibited space. The humans should be left alone." As the Krax leaders debated, the final images from Earth played on their screens. Ordinary-looking humans with extraordinary abilities, a primitive species that had defeated their advanced civilization, a planet that protected itself in ways they couldn't have imagined. They had chosen the wrong planet. They had awakened Earth's terrifying secret, and the galaxy would never be the same.